Hello and welcome to the Small Business Briefing. I'm Brian Kelly, CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Sarah Miller, Vice President of Marketing and Strategic Communications. We appreciate you tuning in today. Brian, let's start off with some news from MyLeap. There is a new permanent director. Tell us more.
Yeah, this is a new department that the governor created outside of the Department of Education, and we could go on and on about the Department of Education is actually separate from the rest of state government, and it's always a challenge for every governor to influence education policy because there's this other departments not really under the governor. What Governor Whitmer has done, created this new department, and it deals with the bookends, so the non-K-12 stuff. It's the post-high school and the preschool areas of the state's involvement. And there was Michelle Richard, a great friend of small business, that was the acting director. She'd been on this briefing before. She was the acting director, and now the governor has made a permanent selection. So Dr. Beverly Walker Graffia from Mott Community College, so the president of Mott Community College, and really a fine selection. I had the opportunity to work work somewhat back when I was in public office with Dr. Beverly, when it on several important issues. So looking forward to reconnecting there, and a really great pick of the governor for this department. So this will be like it's a new stage. This is I'd say it's the most recent in a series of actions that governor's going back to Blanchard. So Blanchard, Engler, Granholm, Snyder, now Whitmer, have all kind of tried to move a little more of the education stuff into the apparatus that is part of the governor's structure. It's probably the most aggressive move yet, and by picking somebody, so Dr. Graffia, but Dr. Beverly is what she goes by. The it is, I think, a clear message that this is going to be a serious department.
All right. Well, thanks for that update. So Brian, in just 3 weeks, we are hosting our Small Business Summit and annual meeting. So that's June 13th here in Lansing. And we're really excited about our keynote speaker. And we've actually invited him to join us today to give a little preview of his remarks. So
Yeah,
I'll let you take it over.
this is gonna be a great annual meeting. So we'd like this our Small Business Summit and annual meeting. If you haven't been, it's our biggest event each year. 500 of our closest friends get together with us at the Lansing Center. Businesses from all different parts of the state and every industry that you can think of that gather together, and what they have in common is that these are people that own and operate small businesses. And this year's message I'm really excited about, because I think it's going to really touch the audience, or those who are really putting everything on the line for a small enterprise. And so Jacob Brown is the keynote speaker. He's with us, and I actually had ready here some details about your history. I just don't think that I could do it justice, Jacob. So maybe just let's start out with that. Just give us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. Hi. First of all, Brian, Sarah, thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak at the event next month. I cannot wait to come speak and empower, encourage everyone that's going to be in attendance to fail forward. So fail forward is my motto. It's not something I originated. John Maxwell wrote a book back in 2000 about failing forward. But failing forward for me came about 2 months before I went to the NFL draft, and back in 2006. And I'll tell you guys a bit more of the story when I come there. But I went from the NFL to corporate America, and I was always an entrepreneur at heart. So I had started multiple businesses and had multiple businesses completely fail. But in that, I learned so much, and which is why one of the companies that I own now, co-own Varlo, is a cycling and triathlon apparel brand. We're about 4.5 years old, and we are the fastest growing cycling triathlon apparel brand in the world right now. We partner with REI, with Super Tri, Super League, Ironman Foundation. We are all over the place, and we're growing very, very fast. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that story and what my fail forward story means to me, and how it could apply to a lot of the small business owners that will be there in attendance.
That's outstanding. And I think that really is going to make a special connection with people that have, so small business owners are, they're like serial entrepreneurs. They've got a lot of things going. They're trying new things all the time, starting multiple businesses. Some of them succeed and some of them don't. But the key is that you get something, you learn something out of each one. Maybe just give us before we let you go, just a nugget or two, just kind of whet the appetite on some a main point or two of failing forward, what that means to you.
Yeah, so one of my favorite people back in history is Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister, for those who don't know, is the first human being that broke the 4-minute mile barrier. And one of the things that Roger Bannister said after he failed to break the 4-minute mile barrier is that, I failed, I came up 3 seconds short, but I still learned in the process that, number one, because back then in 1953, when he tried, the doctors, experts, and physicians said that anyone that tried to break the 4-minute mile barrier could actually die. Their heart could explode if they pushed their body that hard too far. And I believe that there are a lot of people that are not taking risks in their life, with their business, with their entrepreneurship, because of what other people have said to them or what they haven't seen done yet. For thousands of years, no one had broken the 4-minute mile barrier until Roger Bannister did on May 6, 1954. And it was a year after he failed and learned that, number one, he wouldn't die as a medical student at the University of Oxford, but number two, that if he pushed his body 4 seconds faster, he could break this barrier. And since then, thousands of people have broken the 4-minute mile barrier. It has become the standard for the mile. And it took someone taking the risk, putting things on the line, like all of us entrepreneurs, and becoming the first, not just in their family, but the first in the history of the world to break the 4-minute mile barrier and to do what everyone believed was impossible. So what I'm going to be teaching is helping other people understand, listen, even in your failures, you can still learn, you can still make progress, and you can shift and reshape your mind to believe that there is something you can do that was once deemed impossible, whether it's by your family, by your friends, or even by your industry. You can break that barrier and become the first.
That's outstanding. Actually, I love the running example too. I love to run, nowhere near 4-minute miles, by the way. But I can go long distances to 17 or 18 marathons now. But that's I've had an opportunity to watch a Roger Bannister narrate his laps around
Yep.
It really is it's just an incredible story, and it's very applicable. Jacob,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us today and giving us a little taste of what people will experience at our upcoming Small Business Summit and annual meeting. We'll see you real soon.
Brian, Sarah, thank you so much. And guys, I'm looking forward to failing forward with you. I'll see you on June 13th.
All right, thanks, Jacob. I did drop a link to our page on the website that has details on the event and how to register. Plenty of seats available, so definitely go through, register, and join us on June 13th. Okay, Brian, we have a few more stories to cover today. The first is from the Michigan Treasury. They published a new rule related to credit card surcharges. So what's this new rule and what's the impact?
Yeah, this one that was actually just shared with me that a few hours ago in one of the publications that the Michigan Treasury put out. So as more and more transactions have moved to credit card transactions, it takes a bite, 2 or 3% out of the sales that small business owners have. So if somebody pays a credit card, the small business doesn't get to keep all of that money. There's a percentage that goes to the credit card processing company. And so what some businesses are doing is adding a surcharge on. So if somebody pays a credit card, they'll add 2 or 3 or 4%, whatever the surcharge is, to use the credit card in order to recoup that money. What Treasury is saying is that the surcharge, the amount you add onto it, is subject to the sales tax, and that is I think that's going to come as a surprise. I don't think that anybody really is looking at it that way right now. There's a very technical sales tax, and what's subject to it and what's not is a very technical analysis. And so So I'm about to give you an opinion here, and it's not to say that I'm questioning, I don't know enough yet to question the technical analysis of the US or of the state treasury in terms of saying, if you add on a surcharge, you need to apply the sales tax to that surcharge. But what I am saying is that, that most small businesses reluctantly move to the idea of a surcharge with credit card use because, I mean, they just get nickel and dime all the time, and everybody, wants a piece of the transaction. At the end of the day, everybody else gets paid. The small business owner is the last one that gets paid, and so like now here comes Treasury in just another taker out of that transaction, or if it's passed along to the customer, it's just that much more sales tax has to be added on that the customer has to pay, which it's already difficult to explain the way that costs are rising to customers out there today. So I don't think this would sit particularly well with small business owners and those that have again very reluctantly, I think, gone to this method, but published very recently here by Treasury.
All right, next up, let's talk about the Consensus Revenue Estimating Conference. They issue new state revenue projections. So tell us more about those numbers.
Yeah, I'd like to look at the state revenue projections because each of the state revenues are tied to economic activities. So it's income taxes, business income taxes, real estate to a lesser amount. Local government is mainly real estate, but there's some of that is state revenue, especially in the school aid fund, and then sales taxes. So all of those, you just pull some insights out of it. So there's revenue estimates for the general fund and for the school aid fund. Those are the state's two big funds, and then there's a bunch of federal dollars that come in too. So on those, the general fund is expected to be up some next year, so up about 350 million, and it's the general fund is almost $14 billion. So it's not a huge increase, but it's expected to be up some. So what can we draw from that? It's that a big portion of the general fund is made up of individual income taxes and business income taxes. So what that would suggest is that the Treasury is expecting income to rise somewhat next year. The school aid fund is expected to be slightly down, and so the current fiscal year is 17.78 billion, or for the next, I'm sorry, that's the projection for next year, and that's down about 160 million. Again, percentage wise, that's a pretty small decline, but still a decline, which is something that the school aid fund is not used to lately. They had been experienced pretty big increases previously. One of the reasons why the governor and the legislature in different ways are proposing capturing some dollars that currently go into pensions to put into current school operations, I think is because there isn't an increase that's very substantial, or there's not an increase, it's actually a slight decrease in funds. So what is the school aid fund mainly made up of? Well, the behemoth in it is sales taxes. So the majority of what you pay in sales taxes goes to the school aid fund. Lottery profits also go to the school aid fund, but it's a smaller portion of it. And also transfer taxes. So you sell your property. If you've ever sold real estate, there's a transfer tax that is paid. That is part of what goes into the school aid fund too. So it'd say that when it comes to things like sales taxes, either they're projecting people are going to buy less, or they'll buy more of things that are not subject to the sales tax. Things like food, housing, and gasoline actually is something that's exempt from the, or I'm sorry, not gasoline isn't exempt from the sales tax, but the idea, if food is more expensive, so people are going to spend more money on food, that means less money on other things. So the school aid fund revenue comes down. Of course, fewer properties are transferring too, with interest rates being higher, real estate sales being lower, that transfer tax, fewer properties being sold. So it kind of all fits these revenue estimating, there are revenue estimates that have come out and what we know about what generally what's happening out there. It fits. And I will say too, that these revenue estimators and the state's economists, which includes economists at the U of M, they're really, really good. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, state revenues are off by $100 million, and that's a lot of money. But percentage wise, when you're talking about an $80 billion budget, that's actually pretty much right on the money. So they have proven to be quite accurate, and their estimates do fit what we're seeing out there in terms of the macroeconomic movements.
All right, let's talk about a headline that I saw this morning, and that is that health insurance costs the rates are projected to rise.
Yeah, the major health insurance companies that have multiple health insurance companies that have big market shares in Michigan are projecting that the rates are going to rise next year and rise double digits. And that's not a surprise because the costs within healthcare have been rising quite a bit. And so I thought I might share some of the drivers underneath the hood. So when you see your premium rates go up, those tie back to claims experience from the previous year. So in terms of claims experience, what's happening? And so our outpatient surgery claims increased last year by 13%. So a pretty substantial increase. So it's both higher cost of procedures, so the cost structure within the healthcare system, but then also the intensity of the procedures for cardiac care, cancer surgeries, treatment of musculoskeletal issues, utilization rates in each of those areas have grown. So there's the cost for the procedure, the intensity of the procedure, and the utilization, the number of claims coming in. So all that has led to a 13% increase in the claims in the previous year. That translates into rate increases. Also, claims for medical imaging, CAT scans, MRI, PET scans, X-rays increased by 10% last year. On the pharmacy side, Blue Cross experienced 1.8 billion more in claims on pharmacy benefits last year. So these there are a lot of really exciting and helpful and effective new pharmaceuticals that are coming out, but they come with really, really big price tags. And then one that you've seen kind of on the news quite a bit, there's a series of weight loss drugs and that are also prescribed for like type 2 diabetes. The claims experience for those increased $320 million last year. So all of these costs are translating into rate increases. One of the things that we're working on at SBAM in terms of like the reaction to that, what are the things that somebody can do now to try to contain or limit the increases, because that's sort of year over year experience, especially when you see these costs that are coming through. The claims utilization, the cost of the drugs, I mean, everything is going up. What can small business owners do? It's a real conundrum, but something that we're laser focused on.
Absolutely. We certainly already spent some time today even discussing it and how we can continue to assist our members in this area. But thanks for going into the details and the why. I think that's really helpful for people to understand. All right, the Michigan Retail Sales Index is a monthly report, and you're going to provide some insights from their latest issue.
Yeah, we saw another dip in the monthly retail sales index, and it dovetails. Actually, it was a national report that I'm going to bring up too. So the retail sales index, it looks, the retailers survey their members, and then they get an idea of whose sales went up, whose went down, who stayed the same, and it feeds into an index calculation where they kind of have an overall, like, how are things going in the industry. And so it's down, and that's a continuance of an already slow year. So 53% surveyed or reported a dip in sales from in April as compared to March. And then 39% saw an increase and 8% saw them stay the same. So it's from a year over year basis, that's where you really kind of get a sense for what's happening in retail. So it's one thing to look at kind of what's happened just in the last couple months, but if you look year over year, the April 2023 retail index came in at 60.6%, and April was 42.5, and that is a really big year over year drop. I think it might be the biggest drop, or at least in modern history. I mean, I follow this index every single month, and it is it's pretty substantial. So and then the other thing I wanted to tie that into was just reading some of the bigger retailers. They do keep track and publish like what people are spending money on, and within stores, and there's a higher proportion being spent on necessities and things that are considered necessities, and a lower proportion on discretionary items. That would be an indication that household budgets are tighter than what they have been in the past. So all this stuff is kind of like, you know, you see higher costs and the retail sales falling off a bit. State revenues, you know, from an income standpoint, and another thing that our, you know, half of private sector employment comes from small businesses. According to our entrepreneurship scorecard report, which by the way, we published this week, and maybe we should have led with that. But that's it's a 20-year look back. But as we can see, like business owners are paying people more than they ever have. So it feeds into higher income tax revenue to state government, but budgets are tighter than they've ever been, which is why you can see like the general fund revenue tied to income taxes is up. The sales tax, the school aid fund, which is really tied to heavily to sales tax, is, you know, flat or projected to be down a little bit. That's all of this stuff kind of coming together. It just feels like softening, you know, overall softening. Not a bottom dropping out, not a, you know, I don't think there are too many people out there that are expecting any kind of severe or substantial drop off in economic activity, but just softening in across the board. And I think we're already, I don't even say entering in, I think we're already in a period where growth and increases are just for businesses and for small businesses just coming harder than it has in the last few years.
I did share a link here on Zoom and on Facebook, so people can go check out the scorecard that was released yesterday. You can see the takeaways, go through the whole document. There's a press release as well. So we'll probably touch on it on a briefing coming up. That is actually all we have for today. Enjoy your long weekend, support small businesses along the way, and we'll be back here next Thursday, May 30th. Have a great
Thanks, everybody.
weekend.
See you in a week.